Hello, 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 and a very, very warm welcome indeed to tonight's edition of Spotlight. As always, I'm your host Kennneth Frotwell. So glad you could join us. It's going to be a magnificent show this evening. Thank you, thank you. Now, the past couple of years have been tough times for many of us following the financial crisis, but one group of people above all others have become the focus of much public anger. I'm talking, of course, about bankers. We are joined tonight by Piers Lashprole, a senior investment banker with venerable city firm Schwindle Fynn-Aygle Steele. Piers, welcome to Spotlight. Thanks so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure. Gets me out of the office, eh? Good to have a break now and then. And actually I was in the area anyway. I needed to get a new diamond windscreen for my Ferrari. Those fucking things smash so easily. Hardest mineral on earth, my fucking ass.
Indeed. So Piers, it's fair to say that your industry isn't the most popular right now. In fact, in a poll conducted for Spotlight, the public rated bankers as slightly worse for society than pedophiles, cannibals, and necrophiles. How does that make you feel?
Well, firstly, I think it goes to show you just can't expect the great British public to understand the importance of the banking system. In fact, I don't think you can expect them to understand anything. Generally speaking, the public have the intelligence of pig excrement. After all, if they'd had any brains at all, they would have become bankers instead of sitting on their hideous fat asses all fucking day watching Jeremy Kyle and masturbating. If they don't have the simple common sense to join the finance industry, I don't see why we should listen to anything they have to say whatsoever.
I see.
But do you see, Kenneth? Have you actually seen some of these people? Jesus fucking Christ. The gene pool needs a few million gallons of chlorine flushed through it, if you ask me.
Yes. Well, you can perhaps understand why those opinions might not endear you and your colleagues to the rest of the country.
Boo fucking who. They my opinions, I'm entitled to them, and I'm not going to moderate them just to appease some inbred, ferret-filching yokels who can't even spell QE, let alone comprehend how it's going to save their filth-encrusted fucking necks. Let the public stick with whatever it is they fucking do when they're not claiming benefits, and leave us to do the real work.
Yes, real work. Do you think part of the problem is that the banking industry hasn't managed to convince people that your work justifies the incredible amounts of money many of you earn? I mean, some people would say that compared with traditional industries, banking isn't really real work at all.
What a load of fucking tosh. Traditional industries. Don't make me laugh. You people have absolutely no fucking idea how hard we work in the city. It's like slavery. Last week I worked an average of 20 hours a day, if you include going out with the boys as work, which I do. Ounces of cocaine don't snort themselves, you know. Money doesn't just magically jump into strippers' G-strings. I'm absolutely shattered by the end of the week. If I weren't going skiing or diving every other weekend, I think I'd probably die of sheer exhaustion.
You've mentioned something there which leads me on to my next point. Some figures in banking say that your very high incomes actually benefit society, because by spending much of your wealth you drive the national economy forwards. Do you agree with this, or is it just an excuse for what many see as obscene levels of wealth?
Absolutely, I agree with it. Absolutely. For example, last year my salary was £800,000. I spent, literally, all that and more. Much more. In fact, if I hadn't had a £4 million bonus to back me up, I would have run out of cash extremely quickly. And all of that money went back into the community. In fact, it went into a number of different communities. I'm not one to blow my own trumpet, but I know for a fact that certain communities in Colombia, Afghanistan, some regions of France, and a number of impoverished villages in Eastern Europe have been enriched very substantially indeed by my actions. And then of course there are my taxes. Now, I admit I'd use a number of strategies to keep my tax bill to a minimum. That's my right as a taxpayer. And it just so happens that this year I will actually be paying minus £16,576 in income and other taxes, a figure which may rise somewhat depending on whether I am able to reclaim corkage fees.
So, are you saying that in fact you're not actually paying any tax at all this year?
No, I am fucking not saying that at all. How dare you suggest such a thing? I pay VAT like everybody else. Admittedly, I then do reclaim it, but I do pay it in the beginning. Anyway, I'm not even resident here for tax purposes, so frankly I don't see why I should pay a penny. I only do it out of the goodness of my heart.
Ah, so you live overseas?
No, I live in Chelsea, of course. But I get my mail sent to the Cayman Islands.
I see. So, moving on, what are your opinions regarding the movement to encourage bankers to voluntarily refuse their bonuses this year?
You fucking what?
There is increasing support for a campaign to encourage members of the banking industry either to refuse their bonuses or to give them directly to charity in acknowledgement of the damage done to the economy by the bailout of the banks.
Well, I think that's the most disgusting thing I've heard in my fucking life. My God. I feel sick.
So you won't be handing back your bonus this year?
No, I most certainly will fucking not. Outrageous. I earned every penny, with the sweat of my labor and some minor assistance from several million oppressed African commodities workers, and I'm not going to give it away just so a bunch of dole scroungers, layabouts, teachers, nurses, alcoholics, junkies and firemen can fritter it away on things like mortgages and children's clothes. The government gave the money to the banks in good faith. It would be criminal for us just to throw it away. Criminal. My God. I don't know what's happened to this society. We've lost all sense of perspective.
But the government provided those funds to the banks, so the banks would start lending again to kickstart the economy.
Exactly. And my bank has lent a portion of its fund to me. For tax purposes, it makes sense to loan me my wages at a negative rate of interest. And in turn, I am helping my bank recover by reinvesting the money I've borrowed in the bank itself. It's really terribly simple. Only a complete ignoramus wouldn't get it. Unfortunately, there are a lot of them about.
But a lot of people would say that it's not fair that all those billions of pounds have been taken out of taxpayers' pockets and handed over to the banks, who are then giving them as bonuses to you and your colleagues, rather than lending as they said they would.
Not fair? Not fair? Oh, for fuck's sake, pass me the fucking sick bucket. Life's not fucking fair. It's not fair that my friend Rupert got made redundant last week with a measly 600 grand payoff, but you don't see him making a song and dance about it, do you? No, like any of us would. He's getting straight back into the job market after a 6-month mini break in the Seychelles. People really need to grow some fucking backbones. Pathetic, it's really pathetic.
But some people might not want.
Might not want what? We can't all get what we want all the time. It's philosophically obvious. Sometimes we've just got to compromise. I might not want to get up and go to work one morning, but I must. My live-in nanny might not want to let me shove my cock up her ass and come all over her face every night. In fact, I know she doesn't. But she knows if she complains, I'm going to have her deported back to Albania. So she has to compromise. It's the same with banking, Kenneth. If the economy is going to survive, the country must compromise.
So what you're saying is, the country needs to bend over and let the banks sodomize it before ejaculating all over its face?
Exactly. Why change a winning formula?
Why indeed. I'm afraid that's all we've got time for this week. Join me again next week for another great edition of Spotlight. Until then, I'd like to thank Piers Lashprole of Schwindle Fynn-Aygle Steele for joining us.
No need to thank us, Kenneth. We're doing God's work. It is its own reward.
And thank you for watching. Good night.